All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I always wish I had like better news to talk about on these things, but life is crazy, right? Like, are we living in a simulation right now? I swear to God, we're living in a simulation because almost everything we heard about when we were younger is like, it is coming true. Remember not too long ago, last year, we're talking about aliens and they're having congressional hearings on if aliens are real and all this stuff. It's insane. So tonight, though, I want to go over. It's a pretty dark topic, but it's definitely everywhere in the news right now, and I want to go over a certain set of files that was released recently, and I have to be very careful here because YouTube and the algorithms are not very kind on certain words, okay? So I'm going to try to do my best to avoid certain words and kind of speak around them a little bit. But if you clicked on the thumbnail, you know exactly what files I'm talking about. The big E files, okay? We'll go with that. We'll come up with our terms and our code word as we go, shall we? So a lot of the talk now, though, is like, who's in the files? Who's in the files? So-and-so's in the files. I knew they'd be in the files. And Trump and Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and all of this stuff. And of course, just like always, both sides of the political aisle are pointing at each other, being like, I knew it. The other side's saying that the other side's lying about them, Trump's in the files. He's mentioned like a bunch of times. Bill Clinton's in the files. Hillary Clinton's in the files. So both sides are pointing at each other, which is it's obviously expected, especially given the political climate. However, this is way bigger than them. And in a way, I think the media is trying to narrow the scope some, so that we only focus on right versus left versus the elites of the world, okay? This is a global problem. It's clear. If Epstein's, I said his name, if Big E's files, his emails, if they tell us anything, it tells us that this is a global problem. When you have the Prime Minister of Israel in them, and you have Rothschilds in them, and you have Bill Gates in them, and they're talking about pandemic simulation planning and all this stuff, it shows that we've always known that there is levels to this shit, right? Just not even talking about what's in the files, but just life. There's levels to this. We know that the laws apply to us lowly civilians, but when you get to a certain point, it's like they don't apply to you anymore. And the files really, it basically opened our eyes even more to this problem that we have with elites, and this problem that we have with pretty much the governing class. We like to think of it as left versus right, but if you've heard of the uniparty, it's basically the same thing. They're all the same. All the politicians are the same. And that's a problem. And at this point, no one really knows what to do about the problem, because it's gotten to the point where we would have to ask the government to kick themselves out. That's not how the world works. No one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. They have to be forced out. And how do we force them out democratically, like through voting and all that stuff? How do we do that? I don't know. But tonight, the files are massive. There is so much stuff in the files. It's insane. And I was kind of looking over them thinking, which way do I want to go with this? Which way do I want to go? because if you start just picking random emails, they basically flooded the zone when they released all the files. It was like 2 or 3 million files, something like that. And there's so many different news stories and angles you can go with it that it makes my head spin. So I wanted to focus on, in my opinion, what I think is really going on. Okay. And we're going to react to a bunch of clips, and I've chosen a bunch of clips and videos for us to watch as we walk through this narrative that I'm going to put together for us. And it's going to start with Pizzagate, and it's going to talk about Hollywood, and then it's going to move even further, and it's going to start talking about some of the darker things. Okay. And again, we got to be sadly, we got to be very careful about the wording that we choose here, but I think I can paint a picture where you guys will follow along pretty easy. You're all smart, so I know we can do it. Okay. So back in the day, as I talk to you, I'm going to get this situated here. So back in the day, there was this thing called Pizzagate, and it was a couple years ago at this point. Time goes so fast, you know. But it started off as this news story where this guy shows up to an actual pizza shop and accuses them of basically being part of a PDF ring. And he brought a gun and he like shot the register and all this stuff. And immediately the media jumped on it and started spinning it like it was just a loony person. And then there was this one news anchor that did a segment about it, and he took it pretty seriously. And he started breaking down like the symbolism and all that stuff. And he was fired for it. Remarkably, he was fired for it, which is kind of insane. Well, now that the files have come out, and all through the files, these politically elite people reference pizza, and you can clearly tell it's a code word for something. Okay. This news anchor that got fired, he's back now, not doing news. It looks like he's got his own thing going on. And he put together a little bit of a rebuttal. He's been waiting a long time to be vindicated for what he was saying back then. So I figured we'd start off with Pizzagate, and then we'll talk about Hollywood, and then we'll just let it play out. We'll go from there. So let me cue this up for us. Get this situated with the volume up. All right. Here we go.
Epstein is Pizzagate. Let that sink in for a minute. Jeffrey Epstein is Pizzagate. 10 years ago, Pizzagate was by far the #1 trending topic on Twitter. But the claim of pedophile elites who preyed on children was so insane that Pizzagate was shrugged off as a wild fever dream of a conspiracy theory. I was the first mainstream reporter to dare give the facts surrounding Pizzagate. My corporate career was destroyed over it, so what?
Which is crazy. How is it you're reporting on a story and you're pointing to things and you're drawing conclusions and you're saying, hey, we should look into this and everything, and that's how you lose your job?
Professional reputation was obliterated. That wasn't fun. And I wasn't the only one. Anyone who dared to suggest that this might be true was blacklisted, shadow banned, or thrown off of social media. But then, just days ago, the largest dump of Epstein files revealed what some of us have been telling you for a decade.
So I guess it's been a long time. Time flies. I said it was a couple years ago. I guess it was more than that. But anyways.
Pizzagate is real. Not that there is a pizza parlor at the center of a child trafficking ring.
Yeah, good point.
But that child trafficking rings, run by some of the most powerful people in the world, do exist. Tonight, I want to remind you of what I told you then and compare that to what we have now learned.
Good. So he's going to do a recap for us because he pretty much nailed it on the head with the symbolism and stuff. And I hope he goes into that to show exactly the code words that are used, because later on we can look at some of the emails that came out in the files, and it's clear as day. This is what they're talking about.
Pizzagate. It became a major story weeks ago when an armed man decided to investigate a D.C. area pizza place for himself. This man right here, he carried a rifle into a pizza parlor and then fired it at the floor. Media is telling you the entire story is a hoax or fake news. But what does that even mean? I spent the last month investigating. So what exactly is Pizzagate?
Well, the story that came to be known as Pizzagate did not begin with a rumor, nor was it created by Macedonian sheep farmers, as CNN actually once claimed. It began with WikiLeaks, authentic, verified emails taken from the phone of the chairman of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, John Podesta. Those emails were real. In all these years, by the way, no one has actually disputed that. Inside those emails were communications that struck a lot of people, not just online commentators, but researchers and former law enforcement, as unusual to say the least.
Yeah, so it raised flags back then, but the media was so quick to spin the narrative into conspiracy theories, because back then, it still is, but back then, when you labeled something a conspiracy theory, or if you labeled someone a conspiracy theorist, it was a discrediting, it was pejorative, it was a way to delegitimize them, minimize them. Whatever you're saying over there, crazy conspiracy theorist, oh, we don't need to listen to that. And the problem is, back then, there was a lot of wild conspiracies. There still are to this day. However, more and more of them are proving to be true. So now when someone labels, or especially the mainstream media, when they label something a conspiracy theory, it doesn't actually sway the audience like it used to. But back then, it was definitely a way of just shutting everything down.
References to pizza, and to pizza handkerchiefs, and to maps, to private gatherings involving powerful people, some very bizarre stuff. In fact, the first people to draw attention to those emails were a group of self-proclaimed pedophiles on 4chan and 8chan who claimed that Podesta was using the same terminology that they use to speak in coded language. And in researching those emails, I found a 2010 entry into Urban Dictionary. It's still there, by the way. It confirms that cheese pizza is a commonly coded term for child pornography, CP.
God.
I want you to see these images here. These are the images. Notice this one on the end, the triangle. That image signifies something called boy love. The pizza place next door to Comet Ping Pong Pizza, Besta Pizza, well, this was their logo until only a few weeks ago. Clearly,
looks pretty close, doesn't it?
The Besta logo actually contains the same image, I'm going to show you again, as that boy lover image. Interestingly, after Pizzagate investigators pointed this out, Besta Pizza changed their logo, and there it is now. They removed the triangle.
Yeah, 10 years ago, I was called a dangerous conspiracy theorist and a madman for claiming that pedophiles and possibly even pedophile elites might use coded language, even though it was online pedophiles who said that's exactly what they do. Which brings us back to this new Epstein release, because
Right, so these things came out back then with all this coded language, and then they talked to actual PDF files, and they were like, yeah, that's the terminology that we use. And the media was still like, nah. I wonder if it's because all of this stuff was from Clinton's side of things, you know? I wonder if it would have been the same if it was from the other side, from the right back then, during that time period, if this had leaked and it was someone's emails taken off of someone's phone from the right. You know, obviously the right is all through the files that we're talking about, but we're talking about this Pizzagate story specifically.
in it, the word pizza is mentioned 911 times. That's right, 911 times.
In the
adults
files.
are emailing back and forth about
In the
slices
e-files,
of pizza
the current ones.
and about pizza parties. And the word pizza is often paired with grape soda in bizarre contexts within emails addressed to Epstein by individuals whose names have been mostly redacted. So here's one. Quote, "This is better than a Chinese cookie. Let's go for pizza and grape soda again. No one else can understand." Or this one. "Mr. Epstein would like to see the menu from the pizza place. Could someone send it, please?" Or this one from 2014. "Sit down."
Like, who needs a menu from a pizza place? It's all pretty much the same. right? Or when you get there, you can just make your mind up on what you want to order fairly quickly. You're not like, ooh, let me debate about it.
Because I know you won't believe this. Are you sitting? Jeffrey says he wants to go out to a pizza place with you. He did not mention a particular pizza place, but he knows you are in the know on this. With a little
winky face.
Winking emoji. All of the emails that I just shared with you were from 2014, right about the same time period of the John Podesta emails that WikiLeaks published and started the entire Pizzagate saga.
Now let's talk about the Podesta brothers, because remember, it was John Podesta's email that was hacked. In those leaked Podesta emails, John Podesta talks about his close relationship with Dennis Hastert, the former Speaker of the House, who was recently sentenced to 15 months in prison for abusing boys years ago.
Are we kidding? Look. There's so many dots on the graph, right? When you look at just one dot on a graph, you're like, it's just one dot. I don't see anything here. But when you keep putting dots on a graph, it will make a line. How many dots do you need before you realize that this is connected, right? Like at this point, I really hope people are not debating if this is a true thing or not, that we have these PDF rings and issues with underage. You know, again, I'm trying to be mindful of what I say on the algorithms here, but it should be no debate. It is clear as day. If someone is involved with somebody, even if it's Epstein, you can't go your friendship without knowing they're into this stuff. Same thing with the Podesta brothers and the guy that just got popped for that. You know, it's like, come on. I don't buy it.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Podesta brothers, again, there was no direct evidence of them being involved in child sex trafficking from those emails. But as we pointed out at the time, there was a lot of bizarre communication, including an email from John Podesta to his brother Tony. The subject line, "Last night was fun," and the first line reads, "Still in torture chamber." That email got really no attention 10 years ago, but today, a 2009 email from Jeffrey Epstein is getting a lot of attention, as it asks, "Where are you? You okay? I love the torture video."
Yeah.
To the fallout from the latest release of the Jeffrey Epstein documents, they include communications between the rich and powerful, from the co-owner of an NFL team to billionaires like Elon Musk.
CNN teams are carefully sifting through the largest and what the justice.
And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I'm not really that caught up in what celebrities are involved in this, because again, I feel like there's layers to it, or levels rather. And I think being a celebrity and being involved in this, you're probably at kind of the lowest level. As you work up in your political power, I think you're towards the higher level. And at certain levels, I think certain things are unlocked to you. At the lower levels, it's most likely parties and prostitutes and stuff like that.
The Justice Department says is the last batch of Jeffrey Epstein files.
Friday's release of millions of pages related to Jeffrey Epstein provided a closer look at his connection to world elites from Hollywood to Washington, Wall Street, to Buckingham Palace and beyond.
Yeah, well, all those so-called news anchors and their newsrooms for a decade blacklisted this topic. They conditioned you to live in ignorance. They called it a conspiracy. They called me and so many others
like they're
dangerous
saying.
for even looking.
For all that is here, there has not been one single.
The only thing I think is dangerous about the Pizzagate thing and investigating the Pizzagate thing is tying it too closely to that one specific pizza shop. You know, it could have been a bad logo. Who knows, right? Just whatever. But stopping there and saying, you know, searching the back rooms of a pizza shop and being like, well, I don't see any kids here. I guess this is case closed. Boom. There's nothing dangerous about investigating. Nobody wants to investigate because just like this guy, he get his career ruined. And it's the same thing. You think like a local police chief wants to launch an investigation against someone higher up in the political chain that could absolutely ruin his career? No, but it's like that all the way up.
Public investigation of any of this, not from local police, not from the FBI, no one. And that has to be the big question. Not for Podesta or for pizza parlor owners, But for law enforcement, based on what may be or may not be here, the big question is, why hasn't any investigation taken place?
Well, 10 years later, no investigation ever took place.
Jeez.
It's a failure
That's
of a
crazy.
complicit government. And
Crazy.
also of a corporate media that didn't just ignore this evil. They helped to cover it up and keep it
Are we
operating in the
surprised?
shadows. See, by refusing to engage honestly in 2016, by choosing mockery over investigation, by silencing questions instead of asking them, they created the very environment where this evil could thrive. See, they didn't kill bad information as they pretended. They guaranteed it would survive. See, I wasn't censored the way that I was because my reporting was false.
Right.
I was censored because it was dangerous. Dangerous to narratives, dangerous to reputations.
Exactly.
Dangerous to a media culture that had grown comfortable acting as a gatekeeper rather than a watchdog.
And that is something that has absolutely changed, is the ability of the mainstream media to gatekeep content and news is pretty much blown wide open. As soon as Elon Musk purchased Twitter and made it so that you can pretty much post whatever you want on X, whether you agree with that or not, that was one of the main reasons that all of this stuff can actually be talked about. Because if you go right now and you look on CNN and Fox News, there's very little talk about this. Like, there is some, but not to the magnitude. We should be like sounding the alarms. You know, we should be absolutely figuring out what the hell is going on. Instead, we have Pam Bondi saying she's going to get to the bottom of it, and she's got the files on her desk, and then she doesn't have the files, and then there is no files. And then we release, and then a little while later, they're like, there's actually like 5 or 6 million files. Okay, I thought there was none, right? Then Kash Patel's like, I've looked through all the files. There's no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked anyone to anyone. What the fuck are you talking about? And then you have Trump he interrupts that one news conference thing, and he's like, are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Are we still talking? Yes, motherfucker. We are talking about it. We are talking about it. And we would be talking about it no matter who the president is if we knew the information that we know now, right? So Trump's in it, Clinton's in it, everybody's in it. It's insane, right? And when I say everybody, I mean left and right, because I know in the comments or when everybody watches clips of this, they're going to root for their team. Look, your team is dirty. No matter what team you're on, it's the same fucking team. Everybody's on the same team, and it is the elites versus everybody else.
See, the unspoken rule was simple. Some questions are not allowed. Not because they're wrong, no, but because they lead to the truth. And the truth? Pizzagate. At least in the form of a cabal of elites and powerful people who delight in the physical and sexual abuse of children.
It's dark.
Is real. Remember how we started. Epstein is Pizzagate. But the other reality it's time to accept, Pizzagate is much more and much bigger than just Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Exactly. And that's pretty much what I'm trying to get across to people, is like everybody wants to say that whoever they believe in, you know, is not guilty, and the other side is the ones that did it to them, right? Like, for instance, right now, there's a narrative being spun that says if there was anything on Trump in the files, the Democrats would have used it when they had the files, right? That is, it's true to a certain degree, but it's not really that true. Because if you think about it, sure, the Democrats could play their hand and they could release what is on Trump back then when Biden was president. However, since this is an everybody's involved type of thing, they would basically be shooting themselves in the foot as well. And they know that. They know that. That's why both administrations don't want it to come out. That's why the current administration is dragging their feet because they do not want to release these files. They're supposed to be released in a certain time frame. They missed the time frame. It's supposed to be released unredacted except for the victims' names. Well, turns out that's not it. Like tons of stuff's redacted. Tons of stuff's redacted, and you know clearly that it's not a victim's name, right? And then there's something where the current administration is basically like, listen, even though you pass this law, it doesn't say in the law like what the punishment would be if we didn't release the files. So if we don't release the files, who's going to punish us? What would the punishment be? Guess we can just basically tell you to fuck off then, even though the American people are the ones that absolutely demand they want to know. They want to know. Want to know what the hell this is all about. But again, the ruling class does not want us talking about it. Okay, so let's move into a little bit more of the Hollywood stuff, and let's look at some of the times that Hollywood's been creepy and weird and talked about pizza in like an over the top way. So
I am inviting you all to a pizza party tonight at Jennifer Aniston's house. I'll see you there.
Jennifer, every time I'm over with Jennifer, something great happens because everybody loves Jennifer. And she'll text me and say, I know something, Wednesday night if you want. I'll be like, come on, we just did that Saturday thing. We don't have to do too much.
She likes to, she's busy all the time. I know, she's the greatest host, but
she is a good host.
I'm going to bed at 9. I can't come over. Your thing starts at 8:30. So
yes, she can handle it. She can handle it. And her parties are incredible in her house too.
Yeah, she does have good parties, and she makes good pizza as well.
She makes great pizza.
Wonderful pizza. All right.
Known each other for years.
Yeah.
You've been to my house. We've had pizza. Girl after my own heart. Do we love a pizza or what? We love a pizza. It's so much fun. Now, someone did.
So these circles of friends that you guys have. You told a story about going and having pizza at the Clooney's in Lake.
And I'll say that this one clip is specifically about, like, it shows Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler a lot, but there's a bunch of different clips of other celebrities talking about pizza.
Yeah, that's all an Aniston thing. She's like, George and I would love you to come over for pizza, buddy.
Oh my God!
Right.
What did you?
Just have to lay on him a little bit. That's the only difference.
How was the pizza? Was it good?
What
did he make it
Amal's
himself?
pizza was better than Clooney's. They both made. Everybody made a certain kind of pizza.
There's no pizza we didn't love.
Something that he does.
5 different kinds. 5 different kinds or 6 different kinds of pizza. And Clooney's was excellent. Amal's was the winner.
I will tell you though, I don't know what you guys talked about, but
it's so fucking weird. It's so weird.
Like Clooney is easy to talk to, right?
Yes.
Amal, on the other hand, I'm sure she's very.
Looks like you won't have to be delivering pizzas anymore, Deeds. Now you're a very rich man. What's that got to do with delivering pizzas?
So weird. So weird. Here's another one. Jesus, talk about awkward, though. Talk about awkward. Like, if they were trying to make a bit on that, that was not funny in the slightest, and it drags on, and they're, who wants pizza? And everybody's like, this isn't even funny. Of course, Ellen DeGeneres isn't funny anyways, but so now let's go into sort of some of the Hollywood talk about, let's go this way. We'll talk about Hollywood actors explaining or kind of giving us clues to Hollywood being a bunch of PDFs. Okay. So this is when Alex Jones, it is crazy how accurate Alex Jones has been on certain things. Definitely not everything, but certainly he's been accurate on a lot of things, a lot more than I thought he would be, for sure. So this is when Alex Jones told Joe Rogan about Epstein.
We all know about Jerry Epstein, okay? And
I don't know about Jerry
Epstein. That was the Lolita Express. Just Google that. And
what is that?
Bill Clinton was like on 20 flights. First it was 7.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
to this pedophile
I
island that has a temple in it. And then he was also flying to this Middle Eastern country with this sheik that's an admitted pedophile with multi-million-dollar checks and Bill Clinton on the plane. And Bill Clinton's a known sexual predator. Okay, so all this stuff's going on. And so they start bringing up lawsuits against Donald Trump with Jane Doe's claiming he'd been with Epstein, even though there's no proof in the law, because they make you log even on private jets. None of it was ever true. He'd been at a
Here
few.
it is. How progressive guru John Podesta is in household name as world-class underage sex slave op, cover-upper, defending unspeakable dregs escapes me. Early on, did John Podesta imagine his baby MMFA, I don't know what that is, would be covering up for underage sex ops and hate crimes against blacks? Huh. I don't know what that means. What is MMFA, young Jamie? Media Matters.
Isn't that Soros?
Yeah, that's Soros. But also, guess who owns the pizza place?
Who?
Where all this went on? It's Media Matters head guy David Brock's boyfriend, and that is where they have major Democratic Party fundraisers. And then they had rock bands there that gave live spoken word dissertations of the love of children.
What?
Yeah, I'm talking about guys like in goth drag talking about how much they love children.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, I don't even really want to repeat what they really pull it up.
There's a video of them saying that in
this
the
is
pizza place?
This is a Comet Ping Pong. So
why, you know,
I didn't know
why
about
is,
that.
I mean, it's a very, very bizarre subject. But
Yeah. You think Joe Rogan? It's pretty bizarre. So that was 10 years ago. Alex Jones is basically dropping knowledge on Joe Rogan about Pizzagate, essentially, and about all the things that he knows. Okay. So now we're going to listen to a couple actual actors here, right? So do you remember Corey Feldman? Corey Feldman was a child actor of Hollywood. Okay. Didn't turn out very well, but he was very open about what happened to him in Hollywood. And obviously you can put 2 and 2 together and realize that's why he didn't turn out very good. However, let's listen to back then. This was back in 2017, right? On the Dr. Oz show, he's talking about this. And we'll just listen. I have a couple clips from him talking about his experience with Hollywood. And yeah.
And that's what you're trained to do in Hollywood. When there's a problem, you keep it to yourself. You keep your mouth shut. That is the conditioning of the system. It's systemic. It happened then. It happens now. Look what's going on in the press. This is what we're talking about.
Did you feel at any point when you're dealing with the police that your long nightmare was going to be over?
I literally thought, okay, well, they must be investigating him because they mentioned, look, you're going to have to file a formal report if you want this to be investigated. And I said, okay, let's do it.
But they never clarified.
But they never did.
And they never clarified that they actually weren't interested in John Grissom.
No. Because they weren't interested in John Grissom.
I want to just point something out to everybody right now. And, you know, I've been hammering on this theme, but to me, evil happens when good people don't see bad people doing stuff that's evil and stop it. So had the Santa Barbara detectives followed up, maybe Corey's alleged abuser, John Grissom, could have been investigated. Maybe he could have been protected from other types of child abuse. And to point, in 2001, this is almost 20 years after. So
this happened in 2001. That's a problem with all these things. And we saw it with the Me Too movement when women came out later, you know, talking about, like Harvey Weinstein, talking about years ago, this thing happened to me. And everybody's like, why didn't you go to the police then? Right? That's always the question. However, like Corey is talking about in this particular case, he went to them and they said, well, you're going to have to file an official report. And he said, yeah, let's do that. And then nothing became of it. I don't know if they even actually filed an official report taking down what he's saying. And again, this is in Santa Barbara, so obviously there's a lot of actors and actresses and directors and Hollywood execs that live in that area. I would assume the police didn't want to stir up that hornet's nest.
God knows what happened over those 20 years. In 2001, John Grissom was arrested for lewd acts with a minor and for oral copulation.
There's that point on the graph, right? There's that point on the graph. You have Corey Feldman saying this, and it's like, oh, that's some accusations. There's one point on the graph. And then later on, the person that he is accusing of doing this stuff actually does get charges for the same things that Corey was accusing him of prior. There's another dot on the graph, and it makes a fucking line.
With a minor. 20 years more of abuse, and we can't even find him now.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Here's another one. Here's another one from Corey talking about
try to raise money. I would imagine you believe.
And actually, before we go into this one, during this time, this is when he was speaking out and he was blowing the whistle on all this stuff. I want you to listen to the tone that I forget the guy's, I think his name's Matt something, right? From the Today Show. I want you to listen to his tone because it is very accusatory and definitely not friendly and understanding towards Corey as Corey is saying these things.
Try to raise money. I would imagine you believe that children are being abused by pedophiles in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
I've told the police.
Yeah, why aren't you doing that, Corey? Why aren't you doing that? Sounds like some victim blaming to me.
In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information, but they were scanning Michael Jackson. All they cared about was trying to find something on Michael Jackson.
Who you said, by the way, did not abuse you.
Who Michael was innocent, and that was what the interview was about with the police.
Now, look, whether Michael was innocent or not, I have no idea, but it sounds like they were interviewing Corey Feldman because he hung out with Michael Jackson, trying to ask if Michael Jackson had done anything to Corey. And Corey was like, no, Michael hasn't, but these people have. And they were like, yeah, we don't want to hear about those people. We're here for Michael Jackson.
1993. I told them he is not that guy. And they said, well, maybe you just don't understand your friend. And I said, no, I know the difference between pedophiles and somebody who's not a pedophile because I've been molested. Here's the names. Go investigate. And let me push this forward. There are thousands of people in Hollywood who have this same information. Why is it all on me? Why is it if I don't release the names in the next 2 months, 6 months, or a year, I'm the bad guy. I'm the victim here. I'm the one who's been abused. I'm the one who's trying to come forward and do something about it.
But
Hold on, please. I'm sorry. There are thousands of people out there, Matt, who have this information. Any one of those child actors that went to the teenage soda pop clubs with me when I was a kid know who those people are and the people who ran it. Anybody can go back through history and look at the.
Yeah, and the problem is everybody in Hollywood sold their soul for money. So they don't want to come forward with this stuff because then the money dries up. The Actors Guild, man, you get blackballed from that, you're done. Like Hollywood will shun you. You'll never get another gig again. And unfortunately, money makes the world go round, and these people sold their soul for money. So therefore, they just keep their mouth shut about it. I guarantee you that it's the same thing with the Today Show and news and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they all know what happens in Hollywood.
Teen magazines and say, what was the name of that venue they were all promoting and who ran that venue who endorsed it?
You've said you've had death threats.
Yes.
Because you have this information and have threatened to expose it. Another reason, I think, to go to police, that's a crime to threaten someone's life.
I've gone to the police with that as well.
And what would be wrong with going to the police now again? Didn't work out in Santa Barbara.
There's a statute of limitations, Matt, in the state of
yes, the statute of limitations. And he says something here in just a second that it's like specific to California. I didn't have a chance to look that up and see what the difference is in typical the statute of limitations on this alleged crime in other states versus California, but he makes it sound like California has a very specific spin on this.
California, which protects people. It's not that way in New York. It's that way only where the movie industry is, conveniently enough, in California. That's the seriousness of this. You cannot, because if I were to go to the police, I would be the one who's getting sued. Henceforth, I need a team of lawyers and I need a team of security to be around me at all times to keep me safe so I can get this message done.
Real
I'm not playing around. It's serious stuff, and I vow I will release every single name that I have any knowledge of. Period. And nobody's going to stop me this time, as long as.
Yeah, I mean, it's so sad, and clearly, like, he's an odd person. But what do you think happens when a child has that type of trauma when they're young? They try to tell people, police, people that they think are going to protect them. They try to speak out and they try to say, hey, this happened to me, and no one does anything. No one listens, right? We all hear all about it when women come forward with allegations, and we always believe all women and all that. We need to do the same thing with children. When children come forward and they make these claims, we have to take it seriously and we have to investigate it. There's no harm in turning over rocks to make sure that you've checked everything, right? And I think we've gotten better at that as a society. However, I really think that children, they are the victims and they just do not have the protection that adults have. And it's really sad because they need it most. Here's another one with Corey. He's on The View. And again, let's listen to just the tone that they take when they're talking to him. The unsupportive tone.
I'm saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
And they are.
And they do not want me saying what I'm saying right now.
Are you saying that they're pedophiles?
Yes.
And that they're still in this business?
Yes.
That's what, and that's what you're saying in your book. When you talk,
you're damaging an entire industry.
I'm sorry.
Can you believe that? Can you believe what this bitch just said? He said, yes, they are PDF files, and yes, they are still in the industry, and yes, most likely, they are still harming children. And her fucking response was, you are damaging a whole industry. Get bent, bitch. What the fuck? That is an insane response. You know what, though? She's been around. I think she's dead now, but good. She's been around for so long, there's no way she didn't know what Hollywood was really about. You know, there's no way. She's part of the old guard. She knows.
I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to say that it's a very important, serious topic.
You're damaging an entire industry.
Can you believe that? Like, oh man, it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. Someone's coming forward with something and the response is, you're damaging a whole industry. Like, holy, talk about soulless bloodsuckers, you know, all of them. So then remember, I say somewhat recently, but Mel Gibson had that little crash out around the, when he made the, was it like the Blood of Christ movie? Remember when he got just absolutely annihilated in the press for being anti-Semitic? And because he had that drunken rant about Jews and whatnot, and everybody basically wrote him off as insane and whatever. Back in 1997 or 1998, he did this interview, and listen to what he's saying, because he's talking about Hollywood, okay?
When I came over here, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
The first time I really came over here. You know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on, because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
They don't.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town. And
talking about Hollywood.
That were like, surely that couldn't be, because
because that would be insane.
Place can't be like, Weird Town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them and they tell you don't go into the house on the hill, and it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like. Could it? And then you find out later on the track that you are exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real.
Isn't that crazy? Now that we know what we know.
The time, and you think, it does rip your life to pieces.
Does it?
If you'll let it.
Yeah.
And it's always pounding at the walls. It's these little guys, these little heathens with no soul downstairs with horns on their head with a battering ram trying to like beat your walls in.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take very long.
And I think what he's talking about here, and again, this is just an assumption, but what I think he's saying is you're the new person in town and you get this sense that there's backroom deals and really horrific, shady things, and there's this pressure to become one of them. That's what he's saying. There's always beating down at your walls and you got to stay with your convictions, right? Well, it's like the carrot on the stick. More money is the carrot on the stick, but in order to get that money, you need to sacrifice your values and your morals. And it's that constant test is what he's talking about.
Before you realize, or before it gets to you, it's cascading on you all the time. You can't get away from certain attitudes, from certain modes of behavior that this town and the industry dictate. And no matter how strong you are when you come in off the farm with those convictions and a certain line of attack, no matter how strong you are going to be affected by this place. No, it's going to divert you from where you were going.
Sure.
You're going to be diverted. You'll eat yourself alive here. And I think it takes that kind of cockroach resilience to survive in this town. I mean, this is a bizarre place. The social contract.
There it is.
You can't get mad. You can't get mad. You can't let it get you, because you have to make a deal with everyone else, and it's almost unspoken that you are going to be fucked over at some point.
I mean, as a matter of interest, do you think it's easier because you're an outsider who came in?
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Basically, you're going to have to make a deal. Everybody makes a deal that you're not going to get mad when you get fucked over, because it's going to happen. And that social contract of like, we are all in this together. This is our little clique. This is our little team. And it sounds like everybody has something on everybody.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because it was glaring to me, because I was an outsider who came in. When I came over here,
and again, the media absolutely tore him apart a little while ago, right? For being so anti-Semitic. He probably is. But it's interesting too, because a lot of the directors and everything in Hollywood happen to be Jewish. So when he is anti-Hollywood, it almost makes him anti-Semitic by default, right? You read, even if you read between the lines, that's kind of what he's talking about. Those people is what, and being an outsider, he's not Jewish, right? That's what he's talking about. Now, that aside, if we just talk about Hollywood in terms of what they require, everybody is so fake. Everybody is so fake. They don't have any soul. They don't stand for anything. It's basically all about the money. And it's very like hedonistic in nature. There was that movie Eyes Wide Shut, I believe is what it was. And the more you hear about how things are, and you go back and you watch that movie, not all of it, but it does not seem like a very far stretch. Okay. So now we're continuing on. We're shifting a little bit from Hollywood. I think this might be the last Hollywood-ish person I have that's going to talk about the culture there. Now, this is Tila Tequila. Remember, she had like a reality show. Honestly, she was like such a flash in the pan. She was like here and then gone, and I never even really knew why she was famous in the first place. Anyways, she sounds a little crazy. She probably is a little crazy, but listen to what she's saying and then apply it to what everybody else has been saying and what is in the files. Okay.
Do the symbol, because a lot of in the media, I don't know if they're still doing that today in the land of the living, but I know what I experienced when I went down there. They call themselves elites, and what it means is the elites of like the satanic kingdom, and they do this thing with the all-seeing eye. As you notice, in the past I had that all-seeing eye too, because I had to become one of them in order to come back and expose them, you see. So this wickedness, and for a while they're trying to keep me silent, but I'm like, wait a minute. Satan's a liar, because he just wants me to be silent, because if we keep living in today's world, the land of the living, and there's no justice anywhere, like where's the God of justice, right? It's because I kept silent all these years, but I'm not going to keep silent no more. But what goes...
I'm not sure if she always talked like this or not, but she definitely seems like she's on some sort of an upper right now. But I mean, hey, whatever
goes on down there in Hollywood, I don't know if it's still going on today, because I don't want to accuse nobody, but what I saw, I pray that everybody out there repents, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. In these they have lots of sex child trafficking rings, and
now she's getting into the part that's like relevant to us: crazy sex parties and the PDF trafficking rings.
Even have their own churches, but they're very satanic churches, and they do abominations. They sodomize each other. I'm not going to get into details because it's so traumatizing to what I saw and experienced down there. But the more power you have, the more fame you get, the more depraved things you have to do. So I don't know if they still do that today, like I said, but God our Father knows, God in heaven knows, the cloud of witnesses knows. So I pray, Heavenly Father, that if these things still go on out there, all of the world, all these elites, whatever they're trying to do like this, to be quiet, that you will bring exposure to them and bring swift justice to the children's lives that were sacrificed, the children that are molested, because they often, they were even like molesting 3-year-olds, and then they're asking me like, can we go even like lower, meaning like, can we have with a baby? And
see, this is the shit that I'm talking about. This is what and we'll get into this a little bit later as we move forward out of the Hollywood and into like the bigger political people that are involved in this. I think this has to do more with this type of stuff than just underage minors.
It's just so disgusting, guys. This is why I'm so traumatized, because like, oh, I can't believe, it's very traumatizing. I can't even talk about it because it's so nasty. But, in the Illuminati world, Hollywood, if you're still doing that today, I pray that Lord Jesus Christ, Heavenly Father, that you apprehend these criminals and bring them to justice, the ones who sacrifice babies, rape children, even in the government realm, the government officials, but I don't know about the land of the living, but I'm going to have to testify anyways, because this is what I saw. It's like this huge, massive, worldwide elite. They call themselves, and they molest children. They, sacrifice. It's just nasty, guys. I can't even... But anyways, I gotta testify this so that there's truth and justice to be had in the land. Do the symbol.
So that sounds a little familiar now that we know what we know, don't we? That she said that a long time ago too. Okay, she said that a long time ago, and it's now resurfaced. Like all of these interviews where Hollywood people have spoken on this stuff in the past and were just brushed off as fucking crazy. It's all coming back now and surfacing, and you're matching it up with what's coming out in the files, and you're like, wow, all these dots on the graph sure do make a line. Like there's something here. Okay. So we're going to move out of the Hollywood, and we're going to talk about the we're going to get darker, basically, okay? But in a second here, before we do that, let me just double check, make sure that that's all good. Cool. All right. So I want to go over, this is such a good video. This video basically did like a 3D rendering of Epstein's island, okay? And then so you have you have a vision in your mind of what this is, what this was, okay? I think as we move into the more darker stuff, it will kind of help paint a picture a little bit more. But hey, before we jump into that, I got to take a piss. So grab a drink, go to the bathroom if you need to. I'll be right back. I need my headphones. Oh, yeah. Much better. Much better. Much better. Let me check something before we jump in while we're taking a little break here. Okay. Good. Just checking something out real quick. Sorry. Okay. All right, let me get back to this video here. Okay. So again, this is a really good video that just really lays out the island and paints a really good picture of what it was like. So let's just take a look.
This is Jeffrey Epstein's island. To understand it fully, we've remodeled the entire island, and we've divided it into 3 main sections. So we can tell the complete story of how this place was built and what it was hiding. The first villa sits on a point just below the main house, built years after Epstein purchased the island. Next to it is another residence, connected to the pool complex by a lower level doorway. This one even had an outdoor bath backed by a giant mirror looking out toward the sea. Facing the ocean is a wide stone patio. Set into the floor are 2 mirrored shell designs, along with the letter E. It may have been decoration, or something more symbolic. Above it all is the main house itself, the largest residence on the island. When Epstein bought Little St. James in 1998, this house was
Isn't it crazy you just buy an island?
Already here. But he had it remodeled and expanded into part of a much larger complex. The sea-facing side has a veranda, while the back of the house opens into the pool area. That pool complex is massive. It has 4 cabanas, a pergola, and a large swimming pool in the middle. At the far end of the pool was a statue of a seated archer, and beyond it, a painted compass that some mistook for a helipad. Parts of the pool complex were 2-storied, with staircases
I mean, it could have been a helipad, right? What do you say mistook? Oh, maybe like from aerial imaging and stuff.
Cases and hidden doors that led into lower levels. Not far away, along the beach, another villa was hidden behind thick trees. Visitors usually arrive by sea. Boats pulled into the island's jetty, which had a covered loading and waiting area. Those who came by air landed at the grassy helicopter pad. It had small shelters for passengers and luggage. Nearby, two strange details stand out. At the top of a slope is a giant monkey statue, and beside it, a stone staircase that leads up the hill, then stops abruptly, earning it the name the Stairs to Nowhere. This northern section of the island was meant,
which that could just be like whatever was going to go at the top of the stairs wasn't completed yet,
to impress. Moving toward the center of the island, the design shifts. Here, the focus is less on luxury and more on control. Tucked into the trees is a low building, almost hidden from view. Its purpose is still unknown. Just beyond it lies the island's main service area. This section held the machines that kept everything running. The desalination plant for fresh water, generators for power.
So here's my thing when it comes to this is there's a lot of logistics that have to go on for something like this, right? The heavy equipment. You think Epstein was out there driving around the bucket loader? Most likely not. So how come we never hear of any of those workers coming forward? And especially now that the files have been released, how come we're not hearing somebody, coming forward, be like, yeah, I was the groundskeeper there. I saw this shit happening, etc.
Storage rooms, and sewage management. Some of these buildings were built directly into the hillside. Their flat rooftops doubled as parking pads, and vents cut into the ground hinted at larger rooms below. In one case, drone footage even captured doors leading deeper into the hill, raising questions about what might have been hidden underground. From this hub, a steep road winds upward. On the surface, it looks like a simple path, but it may cover a water pipeline that connects to the island's fountain. The fountain itself sat quietly in the middle of the island, ringed with benches. In one video, deer were seen grazing nearby, giving the strange sense of calm in a place filled with secrets.
Right? That's insane.
Closer to the southern edge of this section, a massive sundial stands. Once, it was surrounded by 13 brightly painted benches. Some say representing the 13 ruling bloodlines in conspiracy lore.
I mean, now we're getting, in my opinion, we're getting a little stretchy there, right? Like, who knows when you look at the symbolism of things? I don't read too much into it. It is what it is. Like, could be anything.
The face of the sundial resembles a Masonic design, another detail that fueled speculation. Nearby, smaller structures dotted the coast. One open-air cabana seemed to have massage tables beneath its straw roof. Another beachside building, now only ruins, may have been for changing clothes or toilets. Close to the sundial, an odd patch of beach is marked out on Google Maps, blurred as if to hide something. On higher ground sits a large building with 3 garage doors and a row of sealed windows. Some have described it as a staff barracks, others as storage. Either way, it stood apart from the luxury of the main house.
It's still a freaking nice house. I'll take it.
Suggesting it was,
well, not that one, obviously, but
built for those who worked or were kept on the island.
Again,
this middle zone
where are all their
tied everything together. The southern stretch of the island is where the strangest and most unsettling designs appear. At the far southwest tip stands the most infamous structure of all, the so-called temple. Painted in bold blue and white stripes, it once had a golden dome and statues of Poseidon and birds perched on its corners. From the outside, it looks like something
weird.
out of another world.
Yeah, no
Early
kidding.
visitors described its inside as a music room with bookshelves, a grand piano, and even a portrait of Epstein with a pope. But by 2019, drone footage revealed only scaffolding, mattresses, and junk, as if it had been stripped bare. Some believe a small nearby shed hides entrances underground, though nothing has ever been proven. One site shows a pergola with 2 sealed doors built into the hillside. A second building that once stood here was destroyed during Hurricane Irma, leaving behind only a flagpole and a concrete slab. This part of the island also served as a dumping ground. Trash was buried under dirt, but over time,
You know, like again, like all these people working this heavy machinery and dump trucks and doing all this stuff. You can't tell me they didn't see anything.
pieces surfaced again. Visitors later reported seeing everything from machinery to broken furniture left rotting under the sun. Above the dump is a second swimming pool. Unlike the grand pool complex near the main house, this one was smaller, attached to a 1,200 square foot building with a garage-style door. Other features add to the eerie design. A flight of stairs to nowhere climbs up the hillside, ending abruptly with a statue at its top. A large monkey statue sits nearby, silent and unsettling.
So weird.
At the highest point of the island, a tall telecom tower looms, with Wi-Fi repeaters fixed to buildings all around, ensuring constant surveillance and communication. Here, on this southern edge, beauty and mystery collide. The temple, the sundial, the sealed doors, and the landfill, all of it suggests an island designed not only for privacy, but for secrecy.
I mean, maybe. You know, maybe it was designed for that. I think there was I think a lot of the man, I don't want to say this. I think that the island was made specifically for entertaining people. And I bet all of the different buildings had different themes and whatnot, and made for hosting parties and stuff like that. And I'm sure there was some blackmail stuff going on. I'm sure things were videotaped and recorded and people didn't know and whatever, all that stuff. But I kind of wonder how much secrecy you would need to have on an island when most of it can't be seen from, you know, from the water. So it's interesting. It is interesting when you see the layout and the logistics and start to think, oh yeah, they had to like make fresh water, and someone had to do that. Someone had to be the person that made the fresh water. And where are they? Like, what did their day-to-day activities? Did they live on the island? Did they go home at night? You know, all of that stuff. I'm sure they saw people coming and going. Why aren't they being subpoenaed and investigated? You know? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. All right. Now we're going to move darker. Okay. I know. Like, I can't get any darker, right? This is what I think the levels played. This is what I think the levels were for, basically. The higher up you got, the more you were invited into the inner circle. And I think the darker things got. Because when I think to myself, okay, Big E here, Jeffy, he offered people something. His service and what he offered was so unique and special that people sought him out for it. Okay? let's just use someone of Elon Musk's caliber or Bill Gates' caliber. Billionaires, millionaires. Money is not a thing to them anymore, right? They could buy whatever they want. Do you really think they're going to go to somebody like Jeffrey Epstein for prostitutes? That doesn't even make any sense. You think Bill Gates can't get a prostitute? You know? Like, okay. Doesn't even make any sense, right? Okay. Well, what about underage prostitutes? There are plenty of countries that some of these people came from where their laws or age of consent is very, very young, if there is even a law about that on the books, right? Underage girls, like, go to Thailand or something, you know? Like, this isn't something that these millionaires and billionaires can't source out on their own. And the crazy thing is, we know that there's trafficking rings in the United States, cartel trafficking rings, etc. So these rich people wouldn't find it very hard to find children. I'm really trying to pick my words here. If they wanted them, right? So the service that Jeffrey Epstein provided to these billionaires and millionaires and government officials had to be more special than prostitutes. It had to be more special than being able to find young girls and young boys. And it had to be more special than finding children, because all of that stuff can be found for the right price already. So what the hell was Jeffrey providing these people that they couldn't already go and get on their own? I think this is my opinion here. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but this is where we're turning the page here and we're going into some more darker shit. I think it had a lot to do with human sacrificing. And I think it had a lot to do with some sort of a cult. And I don't know why they were sacrificing the kids. If it was rituals, if they thought it was going to keep them young, etc. But that's what I think. And now let's look at some of the clips and the videos and the talk about things that have either happened in the past that we brushed off, or some of the files that just got released and the emails talking about torture and stuff like that. Okay. So let's get into it. This first one here. So this video is, this says, never forget when Dutch banker Ronald Bernard talked about the elites being into human sacrifice and child sacrifice abroad. So this isn't in English. I apologize. It's short. It's 2 minutes, 13 seconds. Okay. Hopefully the subtitles you can read, but he gets to a certain point, and the most important thing is when he switches to talking about them doing human sacrificing, I want you to look at his gut reaction, his face, his emotion changes, and it doesn't look like somebody that's making up a story. Okay? So, let's get into it.
Ik moet ook zeggen dat de meeste van deze mensen hadden een geloof wat afwijkt van het gemiddelde. Hè? Je hebt katholieken, je hebt protestanten, je hebt allerlei soorten van religies. Deze mensen, de meeste daarvan, hadden een Luciferiaans geloof. En dan kan iedereen zeggen, ja, geloof bestaat niet en God bestaat niet, alles bestaat niet. Nou, voor die mensen was het de waarheid en de werkelijkheid. Hun diende dus iets onstoffelijks. Hun diende wat zij noemden.
Basically, he's talking about these elites worshiping Lucifer.
Lucifer. En ik kwam dus ook in die kringen. Alleen ik lachte erom, want het waren voor mij gewoon klanten. Dus ik kwam in wat ze noemden Satanskerken.
Ik wou zeggen, we hebben het nu over het satanisme.
Ja,
Oké.
Ik kwam dus in Satanskerken, maar ik kwam...
So basically he's saying that he's these clients that believed in Lucifer, they would invite him to these churches and have these parties, and him not being a man of faith essentially was just observing and being like, this is crazy.
Zeg maar op route, even langs, even buurten. En daar was dan op dat moment een heilige mis, hun heilige soorten mis. En dat was met bloot.
So at these holy masses, at these Luciferian churches, there's naked women everywhere, there's liquor, there's stuff. It sounds like a Diddy party, basically.
De vrouwen en wat drank en dit en dat. En ik vond het alleen maar leuk. Ik hechtte weinig of geen geloof aan hun geloof.
So he didn't believe any of the Luciferian stuff. He was basically just there for the crazy party.
Ik was er eigenlijk niet eens van overtuigd dat het überhaupt allemaal wel bestond.
Het was meer een schouwspel voor jou.
Ja, ik zag gewoon de donkerte en de slechtheid en de diepte daarvan zit in de mens zelf.
Ja.
Ik koppelde het nog niet zo. Maar ook die kringen verkeerde ik dus in, omdat dat...
So he says, just in case the captions aren't showing up for people, so I was a guest in those circles and it amused me greatly to see all those naked women and the other things. Again, he doesn't believe in the Luciferian Satan part of things, but he's at these parties basically for the naked women and the booze and the, degeneracy.
Ja, als gast zeg maar. Omdat ik vond het allemaal wel leuk. Al die blote vrouwen en al die dingetjes die daar speelden. Het was het vrije leven.
It was the good life.
Maar er kwam een moment, toen werd ik dus uitgenodigd, daarom vertel ik dit ook, om mee te gaan doen aan offers.
So, he says, but then at some point I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices. Now, from here on, even if you can't see the wording, pay attention to how his emotion changes.
In het buitenland. Dat was het breekpunt.
That was my breaking point.
Kinderen.
Children.
Oké. Dat werd je gevraagd.
Ja, ik kon het niet.
You were asked to do that? Yes, and I couldn't do it. Okay. That man's reaction seemed very real to me. It seemed very real to me. His response, he's talking through it. Yeah, wild parties. I didn't believe in all the Satan stuff. Then at one point, they were sacrificing children. His reaction didn't seem like somebody just telling a tale. It seemed too real, too emotional, too real. So now here's another one. So this says, after seeing the Epstein files, she doesn't sound so crazy anymore. Gabriella Rico disappeared in 2009 after apparently escaping an Epstein party. She described cannibalism and murder. So again, I believe this is not in English. And also, I don't know if she technically escaped an Epstein party, but she was talking about an elite party. Okay, that's really the important part. Back this up.
¡Comieron humanos! ¡Asquerosidad! ¡Comieron humanos! Yo no estaba enterada de nada. Que había, o sea, de los asesinatos sí, pero que habían comido humanos. ¡Humanos! Fue de la carne humana. ¡Comieron humanos!
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. That is insane, isn't it? Talking about eating humans and smelling of human flesh. Like, that is some wild shit. Okay? I think that level of inner circle is what these rich and powerful were signing up for. I don't think they needed Jeffrey to find them prostitutes or young prostitutes or even children. Now, those things happened. Were there prostitutes? Yes. Were they underage girls, 17 or whatever? Yes. Were there kids abused? Yes, absolutely. I'm saying there's levels to this. And I don't know if everybody got invited to the human sacrifices or not, but I'm saying I think this is what the real people of power were into. It's been said for a long time, and I think we're just seeing this come true now. So let's look at some posts from the emails here. This one's pretty crazy. So it's from Jeffrey Epstein to somebody. Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video. That's pretty disturbing. Here's one. So it says he was a victim of a type of ritualistic sacrifice in which his feet were cut with a scimitar but left no scarring. On the yacht, he witnessed babies being dismembered, their intestines removed, and individuals eating the feces from their intestines. He was also raped by George W. Bush. No, sorry, George Bush Sr. So, again, this subject was just says interview of purported Epstein victim. Again, who knows who the victim was, etc. However, if you look down here in this part, it all the highlighted stuff, it talks about what I just read. Victim disclosed he was escorted to the FBI building by Michael Moore, who is the creator of True Pundit, described by multiple online sources as a conspiracy-driven news website that attempts to paint the FBI in bad light. Moore has a criminal record as a result of FBI investigation, blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you want to discuss the former FBI agent that called this into the head office. So it kind of sounds like somebody brought this person in, and then they said, I'm a victim of Jeffy, and this is what happened to me. The crazy thing is, you don't know who these people's names are, but like this person replies back to these accusations down here. Thanks, blank. I didn't realize Bush graped him too. Okay. He has a lot more to tell us too, he said. Like, that's just crazy. So here's Joe talking about and reacting to some of the weirder things in the Epstein release here. Specifically, he's going to talk about what the email we just read. So I figured we'd throw it in there and get his reaction to things.
One of the weirder things about these files is there's some stuff in there that you go, okay, one thing that we know happens is when something is true, a bunch of stuff gets attached to it that's both not true and also preposterous that allows you to sort of...
Yeah, absolutely, right? It's like muddies the water.
Dismiss all of it together. Yeah. There's a lot of people thought about that with Pizzagate. And there's some stuff that I saw online that was like George W. Bush was like involved in ritual sacrifice or things along those lines, like killing babies and eating people and wild shit.
Yeah.
What do you think that stuff is?
I don't know. I don't.
Do you think it really occurs?
What I'll say is this is a bad week to be a total Pizzagate denialist. You had
yeah, you think?
You would feel a lot more comfortable about it a week ago than you would this week. I don't particularly focus, or I don't want to say care. I don't. My knowledge set on it is a lot more limited on it because I don't think it's a central crux of political influence. I don't know if it's kind of almost a inside joke in a certain way. Jeffrey Epstein himself in these.
Here's the thing, though. ritualistic sacrifices have happened across tons of different cultures for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's not a weird thing. I mean, it is a weird thing, but it's not a weird thing when you look back through history. This is very common in lots of cultures, predating now, right? In the past. However, to be like, that's just not a thing that a bunch of really extremely rich people would do when they get on an island and do some rituals. I just don't put it past them. I think it's a possible thing.
Emails is unbelievably trolly. You know, he'll say things that are the kind of, you know, shit posts you say to a buddy or your brother or something that you don't mean.
Right.
You know, it's
You're
tongue
fucking around.
Cheek.
Yeah.
But if you were a cynical, out to get you person who somehow obtained that text message, you'd say, "Oh, look, he said it." And so there's a lot of that going on. But the fact is I've seen a lot of images shared around the time period of when Pizzagate was popping off in 2016 that all I'll say is it doesn't look good or easily explainable. At the same time, a lot of those screenshots I have not, you know, for most of
This guy's definitely walking a line. He doesn't want to steer too far off the path or say the wrong thing, which I understand because not a lot of it can be proven. But again, when we talk about dots on a graph, enough dots, it makes a line. And there's just so much stuff that is fucking weird about all of those emails mentioning pizza, and then also Pizzagate as like a whistleblower trying to open that whole can of worms. In my mind, there's no possible universe where the children pedo stuff didn't happen. I really think that happened. Like, I bet anything on that. And I do think it went further than that.
these, for the things I've posted about or that I'm talking about here, I've gone to the Justice Department file. I've looked up the file number. I've confirmed whether or not the screenshot is actually what it is. For those, I have not yet, but I wouldn't feel totally confident saying there's no there. But that's about as far as I can go on that.
When you say images, what are you talking about?
Well, there's a lot of, if you look up pizza, for example, it's just as a keyword search, you'll see, or cheese or something. It looks like, in the DOJ database for these new files, you'll see a lot of things of people talking about pizza in a way that
it seems like a code.
It's kind of impossible to
imagine it's actually just
do to
pizza.
a pizza. It's about.
Okay. One of the weird.
Yeah. It's kind of impossible to do to a pizza. Exactly. So, again, we're going down this road of like, I think it went past just the child stuff. I think that was the tip of the iceberg. Okay. So here's some more talk of torture. This is an email from Jeffrey to a guy named Martin. Don't know who he is. And Martin, it's a reply back to Martin. And Martin says, our spy was captured after completing her mission. Jeffrey replied back, did you torture her? Now, that seems like it would be very damning evidence. But at the same time, it seems a little bit almost too on the nose for me. And I almost wonder if this was some sort of like, I don't know, it sounds really weird, but like some sort of like a kinky role-playing thing. I mean, we cannot put anything past these people, right? But it is interesting, isn't it? Especially when we heard, like, I enjoyed the torture video. Were they actually torturing? Or again, is this like a role-playing thing? I don't know. Okay, so here is another one about torture. So it says chilling screenshot from Epstein files shows Epstein in a multi-person video call, likely Skype era, with two heavily redacted participants on the left and right, blonde woman, man, plus his own feed at bottom. Overlaid BlackBerry message from contact is labeled torture. I am still waiting and watching the melted cheese drip. Again, this pizza reference. There's no fucking way that it doesn't mean something. It says, what could three adults possibly be watching referencing melted cheese dripping? Pizzagate is real. So again, here's like the zoomed out picture of the screenshot. And you'll see Jeffrey's down here. And then you'll see this line right here. And then the person blew it up. And this is what it says. Torture. I am still waiting and watching the melted cheese drip, smiley face, sent from a BlackBerry. It's just fucking crazy. And then this was leaked from WikiLeaks prior to all this happening, but Hillary Clinton in one of these emails that was leaked by WikiLeaks, I would sacrifice a chicken in Moloch's backyard, which this is not actually the quote. So, but anyways, Moloch is an ancient god to whom children were often offered as sacrifices. So this is like a little bit blurry, but this is from WikiLeaks. It says, this is what she said. This is the leaked email. With fingers crossed, the old rabbit's foot out of the box in the attic, I will be sacrificing a chicken in the backyard to Moloch. What the fuck? What the fuck? Even if these people are joking, their jokes are really twisted. Do we want these people running our country? Do we want these people running other people's countries? No. It's fucked up. And Jeffy boy, he was involved in everything. There's emails from Bill Gates to Jeffrey talking about running pandemic scenarios, just the craziest shit. And then let me see if I can I'm gonna bring this up really quick. So let's see, I'll go just trying to see the order that I want to present this in. Okay. So this whole thing about the Bitcoin developer thing is not probably accurate. However, this Brian Bishop was basically a biohacker and transhumanist. He was working with Epstein about cloning babies and designer babies, like genetically designed babies, and then cloning them. And they were going to start, like, they funded this company that's what it was going to be all about, was designer babies. So again, ignore this Bitcoin part, but it says Jeffrey Epstein was collaborating with Bitcoin developer, biohacker, and transhumanist Brian Bishop to create the first live birth for a human designer baby and human cloning within 5 years, and was conducting initial experiments in Ukraine. Sounds like you could be the first investor, as this is a quote, sounds like you could be the first investor as long as absolute anonymity, I can't even say that word, is kept. I have always envisioned there would be anonymity requirements about babies. We can't publicly identify who these are or their parents or benefactors. It would brand the child as essentially and sadly a freak for life in the media. So I had always assumed that the investor would need absolute anonymity for these kinds of products. So the financial structure needs to be designed with these details in mind. This gets us out of the self-funded garage biology phase to the first live birth of a human designer baby and possibly a human clone within 5 years. Once we reach the first birth, everything changes and the world will never be the same again, much less the future of human species. And here are the, this is all taken from these emails. So think about this. Epstein is getting involved with a company to clone and create babies. Why would somebody like Jeffrey Epstein want a infinite supply of babies? Seems kind of interesting, don't you think? Especially if they figured out a way where it doesn't need to be carried by anybody, then this baby is born and there is no mom and there is no dad, basically, or the mom and the dad don't even know about this child. And then he would be free to do whatever he wants to it with his famous rich friends, so to speak. Okay. So that's one angle of this. Now let's act. And again, Alex Jones is exposed Epstein's cloning facility in 2019. So let's hear what Alex had to say about this back in 2019. Again, I know Alex is crazy.
Who was Epstein really? What was he really doing? What was the Zorro Ranch? What was the eugenics? What was the breeding program?
Let's see what Alex has to say about this. InfoWars coming in like Stranger Things.
How the hell did Jones not just say the guy was running blackmail rings and pedophile stuff, but how did Jones say the guy's a transhumanist cloner? That's really what's going on. They're cloning. They're building genetic clones, having women surrogate them. Oh, yeah, it's going to come out later. Epstein's got like probably 15 kids that are little Jeffrey Epsteins. Ugh. And just like the movie The Island, they put all this out in the open. They found they try to grow organs by themselves. They don't thrive. It's got to have a brain, a nervous system attached to it. So they're growing whole humans. Been doing it a while. A lot of the organs coming out of China are cloners. And this is all coming out. And the Albert Einstein Institute and the Rockefellers and Epstein that ran it are obsessed with underground cloning programs. And underground.
Now, why would you think, and Alex will probably talk about this, excuse me, why do you think someone who is into the things that Epstein is into, why would he be interested in cloning? It's like a supply and demand thing, isn't it?
Around vaccine programs. Look it up. You notice on the periphery of Epstein, you hear, oh, the Clintons and Bill Gates and all of them went to Zorro Ranch out in the middle of nowhere, and it was like a hospital facility. It had medical wings. Epstein funded scientists creating DNA-based eugenics dating app. And as I told you, what did I tell you in the last few months? They were recruiting women to have elitist babies. They were impregnating them and doing all the brainwashing at the Zorro Ranch. Ah, tomorrow's news today. I didn't just guess that. I know all about it. You don't think Hitler had the first breeding programs? What do you think royalty is? What we see happening in Israel, happening in Europe, happening here. And why they're so scared of Epstein. Who was Epstein really? What was he really doing? What was the Zorro Ranch? What was the eugenics? What was the breeding program? Well, we know pet projects of some of these globalists and their eugenics. I knew that before I ever knew about Epstein and the sex stuff. I'd seen him involved with some of these globalists in bizarre behaviors. But Jeffrey Epstein and all of his CDs with world leaders having sex with children as young as 5 and the snuff films and the devil worship and the torture chairs and the satanic temple on his island and the weird cloning facility at Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, that's all real. Eyes wide shut, all of it, and it's coming out.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that Alex was able to not predict, but talk about this even way back then?
Detoxes that have saved so many people. And the two, we're selling stuff that really works. Here's the detox game changer.
Was because it was
sorry, Alex, I'm skipping your ad.
But most powerful therapy. Every
guard is I get the look on together.
Oh, maybe the rest of it. All right, the rest of it.
Is gobbling
the rest of it is actually
left and right.
That's why. Sorry, Alex. So okay. So he's doing designer baby stuff and cloning stuff and getting women to carry these children to term and paying them. And there's actually emails in there of some women coming forward and saying, you know, he offered me this much money to carry this baby. And then there's another like diary. It's pretty twisted, but this diary of what you would assume is a young girl pretty much talking about how she was pregnant from him and then has the baby and never sees it again. And it's pretty dark, and it's definitely pretty disturbing. But this is what I think it's all about. I think it really comes down to this. And this is all speculation. I don't know for sure, but it just seems like when money can buy anything for a person, why would they need Jeffrey Epstein? And I think it is because he enabled this cult, we'll call it satanic cult, to do the most horrific things on this island. And he had the logistics to keep the supply going and also to get rid of the supply or the evidence afterwards. That's what I think it's really about, because there's no way that all of these rich people are going to Jeffrey Epstein because he has the best prostitutes. You know? I think the blackmailing thing. So here's the other thing. So that I'm sure some of this blackmail existed, right? But I don't look at it as blackmail, because here's the thing. The second Jeffrey ever tried to blackmail somebody with the stuff that he had, it would be playing his card, and everybody else wouldn't go to his parties anymore, because they would know, oh shit, this is what he does with the evidence, right? So I feel like if he ever blackmailed somebody openly and said, you need to do this for me, or I'm going to release this info that I have on you, I think he would lose the leverage, because then all those connections and all the access to all the different actors and actresses and government officials and all that stuff, it would dry up. It would go away the moment he actually tried to blackmail somebody. So did he have a bunch of blackmail on people? Yeah, I think so. And maybe it was just this unsaid thing where everybody knew that he did, and so they just played along with it. But I think it was more like they were all in on it as a group, you know? And it was like, we are one and the same. When you get invited to the island and you are at a certain level and you witness and partake in certain things, we are all in it together. You know, we're all in it together. Almost like mutual assured destruction, you know, when two nations have nuclear bombs, it changes the dynamic of how they go to war with each other, or if they even go to war with each other, because they know that both of them has the capability to wipe each other off the map. So I think the people that partook in what Epstein was providing, I think they did it willingly. I think they did it knowingly, but I think it was out of a sense of being part of the group. I think they were all in on it together. They all knew exactly how fucked up this whole thing was. Was Jeffrey the ringleader of it all? I don't know. I don't know if he was or not. But I do know that he may have been like the facilitator of it. You know? Man. It's crazy stuff. It's ridiculously crazy stuff. And it's disturbing no matter what, right? No matter, even if I'm wrong, okay? It's just as bad when it's underage prostitution. It's just as bad when it's child stuff. Just because I'm saying I think it goes deeper than that doesn't mean I'm downplaying all of the other layers. I think there's layers. I think there's levels. And just like any other cult, I mean, just take like Scientology, for instance, right? You get access to things as you become closer and closer into the inner circle. And there's just a lot of evidence that there is some really sick shit going on. And the unfortunate part is I don't think anybody's actually going to get in trouble for it. That's the really saddening part. The really maddening part, the really frustrating part is it's out there in the open. And whether they're discrediting it or they're just ignoring it, you know, I don't think anything's going to happen. I don't think anything's going to happen, but I do think that it gets the normies like you and me an even clearer picture of what is going on at these elite levels. And I hope that one day we can stop with all this basic left versus right stuff and realize that it is really us versus them. And when I say them, I mean the elites. They are part of one big party. It's not Democrats. It's not Republicans. It's all of them. Now, obviously, that's a generalization. Like, that doesn't mean every single government official has been to Epstein and been involved. What I'm saying is there's people on the Democratic side, there's people on the Republican side, and that goes for the same thing for Israel and for, the British royal family and etc., right? It runs deep. It runs deep. Hollywood. All of Hollywood, like we talked about. It's fucking disgusting. Anyways, that's all I got for you tonight. Hopefully something happens. Hopefully we can bring justice. But I don't think so, since Maxwell's in a nice, cushy fucking, basically apartment with a puppy, and she was Epstein's right-hand person. So if she's not getting the screws put to her and hung in the streets, I guarantee you no one else that was implicated in those emails is going to face any justice. So, all right. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll talk about whatever the current event is at the time.